Good afternoon, Santa Clarita, and everyone listening in from around the world. You are right here at KHTS, your hometown station. My name is Sharon Brubaker, and you're listening to the Grief Recovery Hour with Sharon and Erica. If you're listening to this program, there's a huge probability that your heart may be broken. It could be from a death, either recent or long ago. It could be from the breakup of a romantic relationship, or 40 or more known losses that we know can cause a grieving experience in a person's heart. We're not here to tell you how you feel because you already know. At best, we can tell you we know what it felt like when our broken heart occurred. And that is really what we're trying to get across here in this hour. Erica and I are here to share with you what grief felt like for us and our journey back through recovery. We are Facebook Live today, my friends, and thank you so much for coming back. We will be answering any questions that you would love to post in the Facebook Live. They will all be confidential. We won't say your name. However, if after our show you post some questions in there, we'll get to those and answer those as well. I have my favorite co-host of all time. You like that?
I love that.
Yeah. This is Erica Honore. For people who have not watched my show, Erica and I are sisters. We are 10 years apart. I am the older, smarter sister. I had to throw that in. You like that?
Love that.
Erica is the mother of 4 children, Donovan, Austin, Jordan, and Kayla. And her oldest 2 boys, Donovan and Austin, have both passed away 10 years apart. If you know anything about our story, that is where we started our journey in 2006. And I'd like to include you in, Erica, to say hello to all of our friends and just talk about a little bit of that, joining that journey. The topic of our show today is how to help the griever.
Right. Thank you so much for having me on again. I really do enjoy being able to reach out to people this way. I think it's such a great forum to start this conversation because I think a lot of people don't know how to talk about grief or even if they should talk about grief because it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So I hope that after this program, people will know that it is okay to talk about their broken hearts and their experiences and to hopefully find a safe place to share their stories.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, initially when you find yourself in a grieving situation, whether it be from a death or a divorce or whatever number of things that can break your heart, it's so debilitating because you are so sad. You don't even know how to start the journey. So I think it's really important, this show in particular, so that we can tell other people how they can support their friends and loved ones that are broken.
And that's where I was just going to. I'm so glad you said that. I was going to say, let's start at the beginning. The beginning for us started in 2006. We find out that Austin has drowned at the lake, and you immediately go numb.
Absolutely.
You just are like, you're numb, but then you get this inflow of people coming in, and they all have their advice, of their best advice. And sometimes you're not even hearing what they're saying, right?
I feel like most of the time, I don't remember specific conversations with people. I know there are a lot of people there, a lot of people around, and that's just how our family is. Something bad happens, we get together, we support, which is, I love that about us, but it is very overwhelming in that scenario because you are getting a lot of unsolicited advice and you're getting a lot of the, I know how you feel. My great-grandma just passed away. Well, no, that's not the same. I'm sorry for your loss, but no, that's not the same. Or the, I even got, I know how you feel. My child is about to graduate high school. And my response was, my child never will.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
I think that what happens at that instant and at that moment, and we are not saying don't come, don't show up. You need that. We needed that. We needed the energy. We needed people holding our space, and we needed them to be around us. But what we're really trying to say is just help people with what to say, because most times people don't know what to say, so they say the first thing that comes out of their mouth. And sometimes I don't even think, and this is not just our story, Erica, it's also our client story. I have grieved with hundreds of grievers, and so have you, and we hear this from them as well. The people want to fix us so bad. They want to make us feel better, and they want to make our heart stop hurting, and they just say the first thing that comes to their mind. And answer this question: could they have fixed you? Could anyone have fixed you at that moment?
No, and that's one of the things I was going to share, is that in that moment, it doesn't matter what you say, because my heart was so broken. Like, no one would have actually made me feel better, because you're just so focused on how sad and how, like, devastated you are about the situation, that all the well-meaning, best intentions in the world were not going to make me feel better. And so, yeah, just like you said, it was so nice to have the family around, but it didn't matter what really was said, because I just was so in shock at our new reality.
Right. And this doesn't just happen with death. It can happen from a divorce, breakup of a romantic
Absolutely.
relationship. You can have this major, wow, grieving experience where you are just slapped or punched right in the gut over any of these experiences, even a car accident, change in health, or getting a diagnosis. This is the same thing when all the support and the friends and family come around. So, one of the things that really helped us was definitely having our family around and sticking together. I kind of felt like I say that we ran around like kind of like a beehive. We all hung out together and stuck together. But I think that the most important thing was knowing that sometimes there were no words and just sitting next to you.
Yes, because I mean, during that time, after Austin's passing and after Donovan's passing, both I had the same reaction, where the outpouring of the love and support, everyone show up first thing in the morning and they'd stay until late at night. At times it was really overwhelming for me. So I didn't realize this until after, and just reviewing both events, I did the same thing. I would go and sit out on the front porch by myself to kind of get away, because it was just like too much activity and too much commotion. And people would find me, and then sometimes they would just sit with me. They didn't expect me to talk. They didn't ask me questions. They just sat with me. And that actually was like so helpful, just to know, like, them letting me know they were there, and that I didn't have to talk. I didn't have to do anything. I could just be. And that helped.
So that's, I think, number one, friends, that we need to talk about, is that sometimes it's okay not to have words, and you can actually say that to a griever. You can say, there are no words. We can put that on social media. There are no words, but if I were near you right now, I'd give you a hug. It is so important for you not to have words. It's okay for us, supporting team to the griever, not to have words. And sometimes that's what they need. They just need you there, holding their space, sitting with them, but having no words. Also, Erica, I want to talk real quick, because I mentioned it, about social media. Social media is such an amazing tool, but it can be the worst weapon ever, especially at a time like this. I try to get out as much as possible. Please, please, please do not post until the immediate family has posted. What is your take on that?
I agree. I know that after Donovan's passing, you were the first one called, and then you called our brother, and then we were notified. So, I mean, in that instance, I hadn't told my mother-in-law. You know, there's other family members that are very important that need to be told, who don't have. She's, you know, at the time she was in her 70s. She's 80 now, thankfully, and but she doesn't access social media that much. So, in order to respect our privacy enough to deliver the message the way that we needed to do it, and then later the social media postings can occur, because people, it's not malicious, but people just are in shock and they don't know what to do. And now, because social media is so ingrained in us, it's your first response is to go there. And people were going on Donovan's page, and, you know, people were reaching out. And that's actually after we were in San Diego when we found out that he had died in a motorcycle accident. We had to drive all the way from San Diego to LAX to catch our flight home to Texas. And I was getting phone calls like crazy because of what was posted on social media. And so that is also very, very overwhelming to have that, because I am just in shock. Again, my family has been struck by lightning. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be in this instance because I'm so caught off guard. And now I'm having to answer these phone calls with people who were, like I said, very well-intentioned, who were also heartbroken. But at that time, I just didn't have it in me to comfort them. I needed to take care of me, my husband, and my son who was with me at the time. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so just telling that story, it was 40 minutes from the time that I got the call that Donovan had passed away to the first posting. And I just try to help people out because that was the experience for us, and just let everyone know as often as possible. Whenever I'm in a talk, I try to share that it is completely disrespectful for us to post prior to the immediate family, because they're still contacting family and friends. And I
Right.
recently found out that an old friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a while had passed away on Facebook, and it's such a shock. It is a shock to the system. So I just think that's a good rule to have for people. However, remember I said it was a bad tool, but it was also a good tool. We loved going back to Donovan's page after he passed away and seeing all the love that was shared on that page.
Absolutely. Because he died also so close to his birthday, it was really nice to see the comments and everyone who showed up to share something special on his birthday, which, for those that don't know, he died shortly before his 21st birthday. So that was really a milestone that it would have been great to celebrate with him in person, but we were able to still celebrate it and still look at everyone's comments and well wishes. And, that was pretty cool.
And then I remember the experience, Erica. It was cool for you because you guys had moved from LA to Texas to really be able to contact with his high school classmates and neighborhood friends that were commenting. And I remember it would make your heart feel good that you had talked to some of these kids. And that came through social media.
Yeah, as a parent, you always your wish is that your child becomes just the best human that they could be. And all of the comments and the phone calls and the messages that were sent to me were just reiterated that I had done my job. Or Lewis and I can't take all the credit. I guess Lou had a part in it as well.
I guess.
But we did a great job because Donovan was an incredible young man, and I'm just really, really sad that he didn't get the chance to grow into himself and really be the great person I knew he would have been.
That's amazing. That's so cool. We still look at his page because it's still up and people can still post on it, and it's really cool. One of the things that I want to talk about is the things that it's okay to ask the griever what happened. A lot of times people will not ask the griever what happened because they don't want to upset them. They don't want to get them crying and get tears started in their eyes. And I know for me, when Austin died in 2006, people were not asking me about me. They weren't asking me about how I was doing. The conversation would go something like, how's Erica? How's Lewis? How are the kids? They didn't specifically ask me about me. Sharon, how are you doing? And I was really falling apart and breaking. And I thought my job was to hold you up. And so I was so busy holding you up, I was negating my own grief. But the first time someone asked me about me, months after Austin died, I literally fell apart. And my question to you is this specifically. It's okay for someone to ask you what happened. And if you don't want to talk about it, you can say, I don't want to talk about that. But how important was it when people did ask you what happened?
I think both situations were so vastly different that my feelings were different. So with Austin, it was an accident. He drowned at Lake Havasu. I was as a result of carbon monoxide poisoning. So for me, I felt like I had a message to deliver for people who would go boating or would go to that area. Be careful, be safe, watch your children. So I did not have a struggle talking about what happened with Austin. My feelings were a little more challenged with Donovan because it just caught me like out of the blue. And so I was so angry. I was so angry about the fact that I had to bury another child that I don't feel as though I was as open to talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely open to talking about, Donovan as a person, but just not really wanting to talk about the situation in the motorcycle accident. And especially, I didn't want him to buy the motorcycle, so I just had so many feelings of anger. So I wasn't as open as I would have been, I think, had it been a different scenario.
But that's a perfect example, Erica, and that's what I'm trying to get across. If we're open to sharing that message, like with Austin, then great, ask about it. Even with Donovan, ask about it. Then you were able to share parts of it that you wanted to share or that you wanted to talk about, how you were doing, how you were feeling. If you didn't want to go to that part that was about the accident, then you didn't do it. That's so different than having someone not ask you at all, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because people are thinking or have questions or, so it is available, best to get it from the source, because then it limits all the misinformation that can get out and have different pieces to the story, So yeah, that I agree.
And then I worked with clients where they're like, no one has called me. My family members don't call anymore because society decides when they think we're done with this and when it's time for it to be over. And there's this really weird thing that happens after the services, especially if it's a funeral, that you go into this lull and then you have this moment where people just aren't around anymore. And it's sort of, did you experience that?
Absolutely. Life goes on for everyone outside of your immediate circle. So I feel like the minute they leave from the funeral home or wherever you have your deal at, that then they go back to their regular life. And you're stuck still in this pain and misery trying to figure out how you can get up every morning and function. So, there are definite lulls where it's just quiet and it's so easy to isolate and to fall into depression and, everything else because you're kind of just left to your own. And I don't think it's that people, obviously they care, but I think they feel like, well, they probably need their time or they probably, want to just have time to themselves. And sometimes that can be the case and sometimes it's not. I think it's always best to just send in a little text like, hey, I'm thinking about you today. How are you? Just that kind of thing. And then let that person answer when they're ready or when they're really needing someone.
And I think that, just so that we're clear, the text needs to be, how are you today? Hey, thinking of you, sending you love and energy. That's one thing. But I had a client that says, I would really like someone to ask me, how are you today? Not just
Right.
send me the text, because she was getting texts from all different girlfriends and no one was saying, how are you? They were just like doing their obligatory text. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's funny
Right.
that we have to go this detailed, but these are experiences that grievers have had over time. And I think that I just want to let our friends know it's okay. Reach out, be there, touch them, talk to them, let them know you're there. One of the other things I want to talk about is a lot of people come up to you and say, what can I do? Or I'm here for you. I'll do anything you need. I think that what is also really important is do that, say that, but then do something. For example, go take out the trash. If you see the trash cans full, take out the trash. If you know they need their lawn mowed, just show up and mow their lawn. If you know that they haven't had groceries in a while, bring some groceries by. Bring a bottle of wine by. Just stop by and say hello. Don't wait for them to tell you what they need because the griever is out of their mind. They're numb. They're not thinking, and they're just not going to be thinking about those things.
That is so true. That it's just to show up. Just show, and also they're not going to ask.
Yeah.
The griever is not going to ask. I would never say, hey, I need this or, can you please? No, I would just, and like you said, you're so out of your mind. I wasn't even thinking about regular stuff.
Yeah.
So all of that was just escaping me because you can't even concentrate on anything that was part of your normal life prior to the event. All you can do is concentrate on how terrible you feel, and that it consumes you. So, I mean, if people just show up, send a text and, just I'm coming over at this time, or I'm coming to pick you up for lunch. Those kind of things. That's the truth. Do that.
Just show up and be there. And if they're not talking, just sit. Just sit there.
Yeah.
Knowing somebody was just there, I remember, was so important. One of the things that I do immediately after I go to a griever's house, and a lot of times I don't wait. I'm a person that doesn't wait for someone to say come over, and I don't ask for permission. I just show up. And I've done this on many occasions. I just knock on the door. I bring a case of water and a notebook and a pen. for a couple of reasons, and I want to share that. I bring the case of water because immediately after, they may not have water in their house, and they are getting hit with a bunch of visitors. So this way, at least they can offer them water. I bring the notebook and the pen because the phone starts to ring off the hook, and someone needs to be there, and we need to take messages and answer the phone, or the griever may just start needing to take notes, and they can't find paper. It has just been so amazing when I bring the pencil and the notebook. People are like, "How did you know?" It's just from our own experience that I know we needed that for us. We're going to take a quick break, Erica, and when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the big things of advice that people give you is to go to a support group. So we're going to talk about that experience when we come back after the break. Hey, friends, join us right back here after the break. KHTS, your hometown station.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business. Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative, Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
Who says nothing good happens after midnight? Denny's is best known for their breakfast served round the clock, like the Grand Slam. But you can enjoy breakfast, lunch, or dinner in a casual atmosphere 24/7. At Denny's, the lunch and dinner menu has a variety of appetizers, craveable burgers, salads, and entrees, along with the best desserts in town. Wherever you live in Santa Clarita, there's a Denny's close by. If you're pulling an all-nighter or don't feel like cooking, get into Denny's today. Good stuff is happening at Denny's.
I'm Janet Demeter. My son Jack was born in 2008 on a Saturday night. But 5 weeks later, our family lost everything in the Merrick fire. And then we moved to Santa Clarita, where we live now. Jack was my shining light in those days. He had this huge smile that would make me feel like everything was going to be okay. But when he was 3, our sweet boy was diagnosed with DIPG brain cancer. 9 months later, we lost Jack. This is something I never want anyone else to hear. So I started working to raise awareness. I contacted my local officials, and Steve Knight was amazing. Not just his staff, but Steve Knight personally. Congressman Knight has authored many bipartisan bills signed by presidents from both parties. That is why I was thrilled when he authored HRES 69 to bring national attention to childhood brain cancer. Steve Knight, to me, is the perfect example of a local community leader working on behalf of the people he represents. Thank you, Steve.
I'm Steve Knight, and I approve this message.
My tile is 20 years old, and it makes my house look 20 years old.
For quality, custom kitchen, bath, and tile, trust the professionals at Southern California Tile.
Hi, I'm Bob of Southern California Tile, and I invite you to come look at the wide selection of tile and stone at our showroom. We offer you personalized one-on-one service and help you see the many beautiful possibilities for improving your home.
Get some style at Southern California Tile.
In Placerita, by the entrance to Masters College.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleeyeleaders.org.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back, friends. You are listening right here to KHTS, your hometown station, and this is the Grief Recovery Hour with Sharon and Erica. We are sharing our journey with you on our recovery through loss and love and how we got to recovery. Prior to the break, we were talking about things that people say that were just not helpful to the griever. We're going to get back and share some things that are very helpful, some more tips. But before we get to that, one of the things that happened to us immediately after Austin's death in 2006 is that everyone came up to us and said, you have to get in a grief support group. And this is what I knew about grief support groups. They happened at the hospitals. and they were for seniors when their spouses died. That was the extent of my understanding of grief support groups. Erica, did you understand anything different?
No, that's pretty much the image that I would come up with when someone would say grief support group, and mostly not just seniors, but like I'd only picture women, like widows,
Right. And it became their lunch bunch or something like that.
Right,
so
exactly.
I took it on myself to find the grief support groups. So I would find the grief support groups. And because I thought that only Erica and her husband Louis were going to grieve, I didn't think I was going to grieve. It was so naive, and I am sometimes embarrassed to say that, but it's the truth. I would say, there's a grief support group at this church, and it's Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and I signed you and Louis up, and you need to go. And after the third group, you called me crying, and you said, please don't help me anymore.
Yeah. So, I'm never doing that again, I think is what I said.
Tell us about that experience. I'm sorry.
When you go to the traditional support groups, it's a place where the brokenhearted come and they park there and they lose themselves in their story. So every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, Erica shows up, and then she's, the meeting starts, and then everyone goes around, and then it gets to me, and my name is Erica, and I lost my son in June, 2006, and then you just relive the story in detail, and everyone else is doing the same thing. There's no action, there's no relief, because honestly, for me, because it was so new and fresh, I was getting caught up in other people's stories and feeling so bad for them. Some people had lost, like this one guy had lost his only child who had dropped dead suddenly of an undiagnosed heart condition while he was at school. And I thought, oh my God, that's horrible. I think he was 6 years old. So when I left crying that time, I was crying for him. I wasn't even thinking about me and my pain. So that's why I was like, no, don't make me do that anymore. I can't do this.
Yeah, and you said, don't help me anymore. I don't want to do this. And that's when I found the grief recovery program, and I signed you up, and I signed myself up, and then I signed you up. I did it without your permission because I didn't think you were going to go. The difference between those types of groups, I have had probably 5 people in my office in the last month that have said, I was in a grief support group, and I felt like I had to keep reliving the other person's pain. There's a difference. We are holding the space for everyone that's in the room. We set a tone, you and I, when we do our groups, we set a tone and we say, grief is individual. It's unique to you. Your grief is your grief. We are here to listen to you, but we're supporting you in that, but we're also moving towards recovery. I think there's a little difference when it's set up that way. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I would agree with you, because sometimes when you go to the traditional support group, and I am not knocking them at all. For some people, it is just the ticket that they need. But for others, like myself, I didn't benefit from it. But those types of groups are often run by the local, let's say, chaplain or minister or wherever. If you're in the hospital, it's usually a chaplain. And that individual may not have ever had a traumatic event happen in their life. So it's so hard to connect with them because you can tell right off the bat they have no idea what you're going through.
Right. And that energy of feeling there. And even on the same token, Erica, you can work with people that have had the death of a husband or the death of a wife. I have no idea what they're going through. I have never lost a child. I have no idea what you have experienced 100%. But I know what a broken heart feels like, because I have experienced a broken heart. And that's the difference that we bring to grief recovery and the support groups. I absolutely agree with you. I don't want to knock any grief support group. If it's working for you, by all means, please continue to go. We are not knocking it at all. The difference is that we have the action steps that move you beyond the pain. So when you leave us every night of the grief support night, you are leaving with homework and assignments and things that you are looking at. You're walking your own path and doing your own journey. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have seen such amazing transformations in some of the clients that I've worked with. I've had women that have showed up on the first night totally on Xanax that I could hardly tell if they were getting anything. But then by week 4, they're completely off the Xanax because they don't need it, because the heart and the pain is not so overwhelming that they can start, letting go of that dependence on whatever they're trying to do to mask the pain that they've been feeling. And that is so awesome to be able to give that to someone.
I had a client recently, and he finished grief support, and I think it's more just lonely, and he decided he was going to go to he finished my grief support. He's going to go continue on, and he had someone to refer to grief support at a hospital, and he started there, and he went 2 weeks, and he called me up, and he's like, I can't do it, because now he sees the difference. He sees the difference between being recovered and being stuck. Being stuck is when you're just telling that same story over and over again. And we have a need to tell that story. I remember when Austin died, you and I would talk every day. And every day you went back to that same part in the story where you found out that Austin had died. And we repeated that story day in and day out. That's the difference between moving beyond the pain. And we're only talking about the pain in the heart. Share a little bit about that.
Well, we did the same thing after Donovan died, except it was just so many more people that as people showed up at the house, they started in where they were when they got their story started. So it's like the minute they received the news, and then we all sat around the table, and it was, it'd be me talking, and then it was you, and then it was Brittany, and then, so it was like, that's the thing that kind of connects you in the beginning is where were you the moment your life changed forever, and how horrible it feels for you. And we just kind of relived that the days and weeks after both events. We did the same both times.
And the difference with grief recovery and, let's say, the typical support group is that in grief recovery, we walk a journey together with you. We're guiding them, and they are looking inside of their heart, and they're looking at all of the losses, not just the most recent loss, because they could have come from a loss from 20 or 30 years ago. And then once they look at that loss, Erica, pick up and tell me then what happens with them.
Well, I think once they look at that loss, because it's that first loss that determines how you're going to deal with all of your other losses that you experience in your life. And when you can identify the reaction you had to that first loss, whether or not, whether your bike was stolen when you were 10 years old and your mom and dad were very indifferent to the pain that you felt, and you kind of felt like you couldn't express yourself and how sad you were, that kind of sets the tone for how you deal with future losses.
Yeah.
And all loss is cumulative, and it's cumulatively negative. So your experiences just pile up into one giant knot in your heart.
Yeah.
So it's so important to start with those early losses, to identify them and to realize the misinformation you were given at that time, so then you can correct it with your current loss.
Absolutely. And the other thing that happens is that loss and pain attaches to this current loss, and it makes that current loss so much more painful and so deeper. I don't know. It's just crazy how it happens, how it just hangs on to it. It's like the blob. It just starts taking over your heart.
Yeah.
Some of the things that grievers will tell us is, I know how you feel. At least they're in a better place. Be happy you had them for so long. These are some intellectual comments that grievers will say. Were they helpful to you to hear any of these?
Not at all. After Austin passed, I was told, you're young, you can have more children. I mean, that absolutely was not helpful, because, of course, I could have had, 10 more children, but not one of those children would have been Austin.
Yeah. Wow. When you tell someone you know how they feel, that's not true, because you don't know how they feel. I absolutely did not know how you felt with the death of your son, Austin. And you didn't know how I felt with the death of my nephew, Austin. We were both grieving the same person, but neither one of us knew. It's honestly one of the most disrespectful things we can tell someone, because we negate and disrespect their own grief and loss. And one of the other things that I didn't know we weren't supposed to say, and I clearly remember saying this to you, and that was, don't be mad at God.
Right.
Because you have to give the griever their space of wherever they're going to go. And it is not uncommon sometimes for grievers to question their relationship and their walk with God, and they need that space to figure that out for themselves. Let's talk about some of the things you can say to a griever that are helpful. What do you think some of those things were that were helpful?
Like we said earlier, I don't know if there's anything that's truly helpful, because you're so devastated. But I just think a good hug.
Yeah.
And, I'm here for you. I love you. Just, just that, like a great hug. And like we said earlier, holding the space.
And then I like to say, I don't know what this must be like for you, but I know what it felt like when my broken heart occurred. Or sometimes I just say, ouch.
Yeah.
Or I'll grab my heart. I do that a lot. I put my hand on my heart, letting them know that my heart, especially if I'm looking at that I can feel it in my heart and make like this pain look on my face. And sometimes I don't say anything because it's not uncommon for grievers to say, they'll ask the same question over and over again. Why? Why do you think this happened? Why do you think this happened? You and I can't answer that for another griever. And that's the question they're trying to figure out. And I just sit there and let them say that.
Exactly. Everyone always wants an answer.
Yeah.
You always try to figure out what little thing, if I would have done it differently, if you would have just gotten there 5 minutes later, or they try to find the loophole so that this would not have happened. But the reality is it already has happened. There's nothing you can do, and we don't know why.
Erica, is there one thing that someone did for you, either through Donovan or Austin, that really stands out, that was so helpful and took you by surprise? And it doesn't have to be what I did. It could be something someone else did.
Honestly, when Donovan passed away, we had only been living in Texas for 2 years. So the showing up from the community, the support and the love we felt from our neighbors that we hadn't met yet, that blew me away. Because I with Austin, with his passing, we lived in California. Most of our family is in California. We even had the out-of-town Louisiana family show up. I mean, everyone just showed up. I thought this was going to be different. I didn't have my family base here, but I learned at that time I had a Texas family for sure, and they came and supported us like as if they'd known us our whole lives, and that meant the world to me and to Louis.
Yeah, that's totally cool. That's totally cool. What about people bringing food and flowers just showing up at the house? Was that helpful to you?
Well, with Austin, I don't know if you remember, we had that one table in the living room. It was like a huge fold-out table that was just filled with bread. Because we had so many people bringing, bread, like here if you want to make sandwiches or hamburger buns. And it was a full table of bread, which every time I walked by it cracked me up because I'm like, what are we going to do with all this bread? I never thought we'd get rid of it. But, for certain people that is helpful because you want to do something. You don't want to know what to do. So it's like, here, I can bring you this meal. Let me provide this for you so that you don't even have to think about what you're going to eat today. So, that's very sweet. And flowers the same, people just, those are like the most common things that you hear when you think funeral. You think, I'm going to bring a casserole or I'm going to bring these flowers.
Right.
So I think it's kind of your go-to move. But, I think it's very important when there's an event like this that there's a designated point person.
100%.
So that the griever does not have to think or make any decisions about stuff like that. And that can be the point person's job to coordinate. If a meal plan needs to be set up, that person can coordinate that. If you're not going to do flowers and you're going to set up some sort of scholarship fund, or if you need, funds for medical bills or whatever the case may be, that point person should take all that on so that the griever does not have to make any unnecessary decisions, because already going through the funeral planning is exhausting.
100%. And we wrote about that in our book, that there needs to be a supporting staff, and that even just being at the house, orchestrating the bread table, somebody could just take that on. Don't wait for the griever to tell you that. Just take it on. Okay, let's put this table over here. When Donovan died, we had so many desserts. We did the same thing. We're like, let's set up a dessert table. So as people were walking by, if they wanted something to go with their coffee, it was there. Coffee was always being made. We just stepped in and did those things. Here's the other thing. I clearly remember I was the contact for the funeral home, for the police department, talking with everybody. And then I would find out the information and I would bring it right back to you and Uncle Lou. And I would say, do you want red or green? Do you want this to start at 12 or 3? And I only had to give you the smallest decisions to be made. and it was easier for you. And in the meantime, you guys were just concentrating on your broken hearts and doing that part that you were doing. But you were making the big decisions. I didn't make any decisions. You made them all. But I remember just recently being at a friend's house, and everyone was sitting around, and she said, well, yeah, we're supposed to be talking to the detective. He's going to call us around 5 o'clock. And I looked at the clock, and it was 7 p.m. Someone needs to be there to be the point person to making those phone calls, because you are literally not thinking about that stuff at that time. Even if it's just setting up the appointments to funeral homes, someone needs to be the point person. I think that's so huge. Do you not agree? I understand what you're saying.
I absolutely agree. I totally agree. And you are so right. You tried to limit the choices that we had to make when we had to do Donovan service. When we did Austin service, because it was our first experience, I literally felt like with planning his funeral, it was as if someone put a bag of rice in front of me, and I'm like, I had to give a name or assign a color to each granule of rice. You know what I mean? It was like so overwhelming. What type of funeral card do you want? What type of casket? I mean, it's just, and even though you and I know we have the best caretaker at the funeral home, Elaine, and we're so grateful to her forever, but in that moment, that's what it felt like for me. And I just was so overwhelmed.
I didn't know that. This is the first time I'm hearing that. That's so cool. I didn't know that. It's cool in the sense that I didn't know that, and that's something that I can share. But wow, yes. So, but definitely for Donovan, I set up a command station, and I did all the phone calls and answered, and then I just kept going, you guys, what do you want here? What do you want there? And I remember you're like blue, and he would say green, and we would just go on and move on with it. We do have an amazing family that absolutely helped out, and they were so great, and they know what it's like to be around events and handle all the food and all that, and that really does make a difference. What happens when you don't have a big family? Let's talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, let's talk about what it's like when you don't have a big family, when you don't have all of the resources, some great ideas that people who they can tap into and how they can get the help that they need. So all my friends, thank you so much for joining Erica and myself. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back and continue this amazing conversation. Thank you.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
They're at it again. It's yet another attempt to add more government bureaucracy to healthcare. This time it's Proposition 8. And who's behind 8? One labor union trying to impose new government bureaucracy on every medical dialysis clinic in California. It's a complete abuse of our initiative system. And even worse, it puts bureaucracy between patients and their doctors. And Prop 8 will force dialysis clinics to cut back services or shut down, sending thousands of sick patients into already crowded ER rooms. Experts warn Prop 8 will cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Join groups representing doctors, nurses, and taxpayer advocates in voting no on 8. Stop this costly dialysis proposition. Paid for by no on Proposition 8. Stop the dangerous dialysis proposition. Sponsored by the California Dialysis Council. Committee major funding from DaVita and Fresenius Medical Care North America.
Laura's Diner. It's the perfect place to go when you're in the mood for some hometown food. Located on Sierra Highway just north of Via Princesa, Laura's Diner offers all the quintessential diner foods like burgers, club sandwiches, and breakfast served all day. Kids' meals are also available. You'll be greeted by a friendly staff and served fresh made-to-order food. Laura prides herself with knowing her regular customers and their orders. Laura's Diner, serving breakfast and lunch daily.
Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back, everyone, from Santa Clarita. You are listening right here to KHTS, your hometown station. I am Sharon Brubaker, Advanced Certified Grief Recovery Specialist, and you are listening to the Grief Recovery Hour with Sharon and Erica. Erica is also an Advanced Grief Recovery Specialist, and we are sharing our personal experience through grief and loss, but mostly our recovery and how we recovered from that pain. Prior to the break, we were talking about how the family comes around to support and really be there for you at the time that you need them when you're planning the funeral and the services. But oddly enough, there are family and friends or people that we know that don't have the huge amount of support that we had, Erica, and that we shared. And so some of the things that you and I want to share about is that people can go to their church. They can use their coworkers. They can use the funeral home. The funeral home, the director of the funeral home is a great resource for helping you get all of the needs done and getting everything met. And they've been through hundreds of services and they know how to walk the line with those services. Also, we can use our pastor, our church, even just the chaplain from the hospital. Correct, Erica?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and in the event that some people are not involved in church or they feel guilty going back after so much time, or like you mentioned earlier, they might get angry with God, they can turn to their neighbors. There's at least someone in your community that will show up and be there to hold your space with you. So, I think people need to know they're never alone. There's so many places where they can go and so many people who would be willing to be there for them.
And then during the break, you and I and Shane were talking, and Shane was sharing the story about how the senior center is a great place to go and just they have resources there. Number one, they have a director of the senior center that could definitely be there for helping you. And there's aides in the senior center that can definitely be there for helping you. But he's sharing his story of just how he supports seniors when he goes to visit his grandpa and just really reaching out to other people who are there who don't have visitors coming by. But that's a great resource at that time and at your time of need. Let's say your grandpa or grandma really passes on and you need that help. Those senior centers are a great resource, I think.
For sure.
For sure, coming on to that. I want to talk a little bit about what grief recovery is, what that 8-week recovery program is. What are the action steps? I want to talk about that unknown that you and I never seem to get enough time to talk about, what it's like when people actually get into that program. Share a little bit your take on that.
Well, I think first off, once they come into the door and they hear my story and then I kind of explain the breakdown, there's such a relief because I think people, when you hear, grief recovery or grief group or anything like that, what they think is that they're going to have to sit in front of a mass group of people and share their sadness and share their pain. And so once they learn it's not formatted in that way, that you're going to work with a partner or you're going to be in a very small group and these trusted people will hear your story, I think there's a sense of relief because people, one, already there's a fear of public speaking, and then two, to share your most vulnerable secrets and stories, it's a little overwhelming to think that you're going to do that in a large group.
The second part of that is they think they're going to be crying. They think they're going to be telling their story, and I don't want to cry the whole time. And the truth is that tears aren't necessarily a sign of grief. You could literally go through the entire grief recovery program without shedding one tear. And that, I think, happens to men a lot. They think they're going to come in there, I'm going to be crying the whole time. I don't want to do that. I'm going to look like a girl or I'm going to look like a sissy. And that's not true because tears aren't necessarily a sign of grief. So just that release of happening there. And then they get a book, Erica. Share a little bit about that and the action steps.
The book is so great because it's not difficult to read. They're very small chapters. And that's one of the things that I point out when I do hand out the books, because that's another thing. They're like, oh, great. When you say homework and you see the massive eye roll. And I'm like, wait. So before you think it's going to be terrible, because you get the, oh, well, I'm not a big reader. But these chapters are so short, and they're written from John and Russell's personal stories. So that makes it easier to read because you're connecting with them in their journey through grief, and also being able to identify with your story. So I always get coming back, oh my gosh, that was such a great chapter. I'm so glad I read the book. So I think that helps because with each chapter, there's an assignment that correlates with that chapter. So once you read their story, then you put it in your own words and share your own experiences. And it does not have to be very detailed. When we say homework, we don't mean you're getting graded on these essays or these papers.
Right.
It's just about you bringing to the forefront of your mind those experiences you may have forgotten about, but that have caused you significant trauma.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. So, Erica, let's talk about where people can find you. You teach one-on-one, you teach group, and you teach online, which is actually a face-to-face class. And you are in Texas, so I'm so glad you joined us here in LA today. But you are in Texas, and how can people find you?
They can find me through my email, which is Erica Honore, ERICAHONORE, grmethod@gmail.com, or through my phone number, area code 818-974-1124. Originally a Cali girl, still haven't given it up yet. I'm holding off on changing to that Texas number. Or they can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's just my name, Erica Honore, and there is a picture of Donovan in a military get-up because he was in the National Guard. I'm very proud of him. So that is how they can identify me when I know there's a slew of Erica Honores out there. So that one is me.
Awesome. That's perfect. So also, guys, I'm going to be adding Erica's information to the Facebook Live. You'll be able to go on there. If you email Erica, she will send you her free ebook that she has put together that has a bunch of questions and answers and just 65 simple statements on what grief is and what grief is not, and a lot about what we talked about today, which is how to talk to someone who is grieving, which is really amazing. I am Sharon Brubaker, and I can be reached at SharonBrubaker.com at any time, Sharon at SharonBrubaker.com. And I also have a Facebook that is Sharon Brubaker, Advanced Certified Grief Recovery Specialist, and I will add all of that information. Erica, before we go, we have about 2 minutes before the show ends. What would be the one piece of advice you want to leave to all of the grievers out there that are hearing our show for the very first time?
I would like to touch on the fact when we discussed the I know how you feel. So we've identified that no one actually knows how you feel because they are not you. And that actually really, really translates for couples also. Even though Louis and I lost both of these children together that we created together, I don't know how Louis felt, and he didn't know how I felt. So I think it's one of the biggest mistakes couples can make is to think that they have to grieve in the same way, because they absolutely will not.
100%. And you have just left the title for our next show, How Do Couples Grieve Together? And that's going to be the title for our next show with Erica. Look for it next month, guys. Erica's going to be back. We love you, my friends, and we are here for you. Please reach out if you need us. Thank you so much for joining us for this amazing hour. Have a blessed day.